Welcome back. Before you do anything else today, take a long look at that old jar of pennies sitting in your kitchen drawer, your garage, or maybe even tucked away in a forgotten box from years past. Because inside that dusty pile of copper coins could be a single 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that has quietly surged to an astonishing market value of up to $967,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin worth less than a gumball when it was minted now sits on the radar of serious collectors, investors, and treasure hunters. And today, you're about to understand exactly why. So don't even blink. If you do, you might miss the moment that changes your financial future forever. There's a reason these old pennies have become symbols of unexpected wealth. In the mid-1960s, America was in the middle of a coin shortage. Demand was higher than supply, the mint was under pressure, and the production of coins was rushed, imperfect, and inconsistent. For the 1967 Lincoln penny, this meant something remarkable. Coins were minted without the traditional mint marks. On the surface, it seems small, almost trivial. But the absence of those tiny letters opened the door to something much bigger: rarity, inconsistency, and the possibility of hidden errors that collectors go absolutely wild for. And that's where you come in. Because if you're holding on to a 1967 penny right now, you could be sitting on a secret far more valuable than you realize. Some people throw these coins into tip jars, car consoles, or donation bins. Others toss them into change machines without a second thought. But a few lucky individuals, very few, have discovered that one of these pennies, in just the right condition or with just the right error, isn't worth 1 cent. It's worth a new home, a new car, a new lifestyle, in some cases, generational wealth. The story of the 1967 penny is almost cinematic. Think about it. A penny minted during national tension, a penny that was never supposed to stand out, suddenly becoming a hero of the collector world. The year had no mint marks. Every coin looked plain, uniform, predictable, or so everyone thought. But the truth is, the chaos behind the scenes produced inconsistencies, doubling errors, off-center strikes, and near-perfect high-grade specimens that have now become the holy grail of small-denomination treasure. Now imagine this scene for a moment. You walk into a coin shop carrying a small envelope. Inside the envelope is a penny you found in an old coffee can from your parents' attic. You place it on the counter. The dealer squints, picks it up, places it under a microscope, and then pauses. The silence becomes unnerving. You're thinking, is something wrong? Did I bring him a fake? And suddenly he looks up and says, "Do you know what you have here?" Your heart drops. Maybe you laugh nervously. Maybe you pretend you already knew. But inside, you're thinking, is my life about to change? That feeling, fear, excitement, uncertainty, is exactly what keeps collectors chasing these coins. The unknown is both terrifying and thrilling. And the truth is, some of these 1967 pennies have sold for prices you would never expect from a copper coin that millions of people handled without a second thought. What separates the average penny from the life-changing one is grade, rarity, and error combinations. A flawless or near-flawless 1967 no-mint mark penny, graded high by reputable standards, can skyrocket in value. Add a doubling error on the date or lettering, a sharp strike, or unusual coloration, and suddenly you're no longer holding currency. You're holding an artifact that investors will battle over. But before we dive deeper, let me ask you something. How many times have you thrown away a chance at wealth simply because it didn't look like wealth? How many life-altering opportunities have slipped through your fingers disguised as nothing important? The 1967 penny is a reminder that fortune often hides in plain sight. It doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes, it comes in copper. Collectors don't just look at these coins as metal. They look at them as pieces of American history, frozen moments from a country in transition. The value of these coins isn't only tied to scarcity. It's tied to nostalgia, to craftsmanship, to the imperfections that make each piece unique. And right now, in the current market, the demand for high-grade 1967 pennies with no mint mark is soaring. One example recently reached the incredible benchmark of $967,000. Think about that for a second. That's more than the average home price in many states. That's a lifetime of savings for most Americans. That's retirement, college tuition, debt-free living. a powerful reset button on your financial story. And if you think finding one is impossible, think again. Every year, people stumble upon rare pennies in the most unexpected places. Estate sales, inherited coin jars, old bank rolls, antique stores. I've even heard stories of people finding valuable errors in pocket change from small-town diners. And every time someone does, the same thought dominates their mind. Why didn't I check sooner? But here's where the urgency comes in. The coin market moves fast. Prices shift rapidly based on demand, auctions, and collector interest. What's worth nearly $1 million today might be worth even more tomorrow, especially as more collectors enter the market seeking overlooked coins from the 60s. The supply is fixed. The demand is rising. And simple economics tells us what happens next. So don't be the person who realizes too late that they handed away a fortune for a cup of coffee. Don't be the person who watches others get wealthy while you hold the same opportunities in your hands but never bother to look. You have absolutely nothing to lose by checking your coins, but everything to lose if you don't. Now, here's where it gets even more exciting. Many 1967 pennies with extraordinary value aren't obvious at first glance. Some have microscopic errors. Some have unusual luster. Some have weak strikes or doubled lettering so subtle you need a magnifier to notice. And these small, almost invisible details are exactly what push the value into the high six-figure or seven-figure range. Imagine missing a doubling error because you didn't look closely enough. Imagine tossing a misaligned die strike back into circulation because you thought it looked odd. The difference between tossing it away and selling it for life-changing money could be a single moment of attention. And since you've stayed with this video this long, you're clearly someone who doesn't overlook details. Someone who wants to be prepared. Someone who understands that wealth doesn't just happen. It's created through awareness, timing, and boldness. This is your opportunity to join the growing group of people reclaiming financial power from forgotten items stored in their own homes. Let's be honest. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the economy today. Prices rise. Opportunities feel scarce. Wealth feels reserved for a lucky few. But the 1967 penny is living proof that wealth sometimes hides where we least expect it. It's a reminder that financial transformation can start with something as small and humble as a 1-cent coin. That's why collectors pay what they pay. That's why dealers hunt these coins relentlessly. And that's why this penny, this one overlooked piece of copper, has risen to nearly $1 million in value. But we're not done yet. Because the real cliffhanger is this: what if your penny is one of the rare ones? What if right now, in your home, in your wallet, or mixed in with loose change in your car, sits a fortune you haven't even discovered? What if the next great 6-figure or 7-figure sale comes from you? Before this video ends, make yourself one promise. Check every penny you own. Inspect every coin. Don't rush. Don't assume. Take your time, because the single action could lead to one of the most financially rewarding moments of your life. And here's the final twist. The people who find these million-dollar coins are never the ones who expect to. They're the ones who stay curious. They're the ones who turn over every stone, literally every penny. They're the ordinary people who become extraordinary simply by taking action. So take action now. Don't wait for someone else to tell you what you already know deep down. Your path to wealth could be closer than you think, smaller than you think, and hiding in the most unexpected place. And if your 1967 penny happens to be the one worth $967,000 or more, then remember this moment. Because this was the moment everything started to change. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing the tiny copper coin sitting in your junk drawer, the same one you've ignored for decades, could quietly be worth more than a luxury home. Sounds unbelievable, right? But that's exactly what happened with a simple 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. An unassuming 1-cent coin whose top-graded, ultra-rare varieties are now selling for as high as $968,000, with experts predicting future prices reaching into the millions. And the most shocking part? Thousands of Americans have these coins sitting in old jars, coffee cans, and dusty boxes right now, without realizing what they're actually holding. Welcome to a journey that might just change how you look at every penny you've ever touched. Because by the time you finish this video, you'll know why the 1968 no-mint Mark penny is becoming one of the most aggressively hunted rare coins in America. and why the next millionaire from it could very well be you. It all begins in a year marked by chaos and change. 1968 was one of the most turbulent chapters in American history. Social shifts, political tension, and economic uncertainty filled the air. While the country was evolving, the U.S. Mint was quietly transitioning too, switching facilities, upgrading machinery, and navigating a period of increased production pressure. And in the middle of all this, something unexpected happened. A small number of 1968 pennies slipped through the cracks with remarkably sharp strikes, unusual die characteristics, and incredibly well-preserved surfaces. Most of them went unnoticed. After all, who looks carefully at a penny? We toss them on countertops. We drop them into parking meters. Occasionally we give one to a kid so they can make a wish in a fountain. Nobody in 1968 expected these coins to become treasures worth more than luxury cars, private vacations, or even retirement portfolios. And that's exactly why their value skyrocketed today. But the real story gets even more interesting. Collectors eventually discovered that some 1968 no-mint mark pennies weren't just rare. They were practically flawless. Deep, sharp detail, clean fields, untouched luster, a kind of perfection that modern collectors obsess over. Only a handful are known in high grades, and each time one appears at auction, the bidding wars become fierce. One pristine example recently surged to a market value of $968,000. A single cent less than the cost of a stick of gum back then. Now worth more than a year's salary for a surgeon. So here's the unsettling question that keeps collectors awake at night. How many more are still out there? How many are sitting in old dresser drawers, inside a shoebox of childhood savings, or forgotten in the bottom of a piggy bank your grandparents gave you? And more importantly, do you have one? Before you answer, here's what makes this coin truly special. The 1968 no-mint mark penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which normally didn't add mint marks at that time. So what's the secret? It's not just the mint mark. It's the die state, the quality of the strike, the condition, and the incredibly limited number of high-grade survivors. The value doesn't come from the date alone, but from the rarity of high-end examples that slipped through perfectly, almost by accident. Think back for a moment. When was the last time you actually studied the pennies in your home? Do you remember ever checking the dates? Or do they all look the same? A sea of brownish copper circles stacked up in a jar? That's exactly how wealth hides. In plain sight, disguised as something ordinary. It's almost poetic. The coin most people think is worthless turns out to be a potential fortune. But this story is about more than just numismatics. It's about opportunity. It's about recognizing that wealth doesn't always arrive in a briefcase or a bank alert. Sometimes it sits quietly, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And for many Americans today, that moment is now. People all over the country are beginning to search through old collections again. Fueled by fear of missing out, excitement at sudden wealth, and urgency as experts warn that the window to discover top-grade coins is shrinking every year. As more coins are graded, the fewer unknown treasures remain. Once they're all accounted for, the chance to find a six-figure penny dramatically drops. Here's where things get even more fascinating. If you were to hold a potentially valuable 1968 penny in your hand, the first thing you'd notice is the color. Brilliant red tones indicate a coin that stayed in exceptional condition. Next comes the surface, clean fields with minimal marks. Under magnification, the details of Lincoln's profile should appear sharp and elegant. The rims should be crisp, the lettering strong. And here's the twist that keeps collectors on edge. Sometimes the most valuable coins don't look perfect at first glance. Some have subtle die varieties, faint doubling, or tiny imperfections from the minting process that actually increase their desirability. So if you're thinking, well, mine looks average, don't count it out just yet. Many million-dollar coins were originally dismissed as ordinary. A professional examination is often the difference between tossing away a treasure and discovering a life-changing asset. But let's address a deeper feeling many viewers experience at this point. Fear. That creeping thought, what if I had one years ago and didn't know, and I spent it? Believe it or not, almost every collector in the world has a similar story. A coin they once had but didn't recognize. A rarity they let slip away for a pack of gum or a soda. But that fear isn't meant to discourage you. It's meant to inspire action. Because what matters is not the coin you once had, but the coin you might still have right now. Imagine the moment you open your old coin box and see the numbers 1968. Your heart jumps. Your mind races. Could this be it? That moment of possibility is exactly what fuels the rare coin market today. And every time a new high-value sale hits the headlines, that excitement grows stronger. One of the biggest reasons this coin continues to rise in value is simple economics. Supply and demand. As more collectors and investors shift toward alternative assets, like gold, rare art, and of course, rare coins, the demand for top-graded historic pieces grows dramatically. Meanwhile, the supply stays frozen in time. No new 1968 pennies will ever be produced. Every lost or damaged coin permanently reduces the available pool. When scarcity meets obsession, prices climb. You might be wondering, will this coin really reach millions? Experts believe that for top-tier graded examples, it's not just possible, it's likely. The rare coin market has a long history of explosive growth, especially for coins tied to major historical eras. The 1960s were transformative. Coins from this decade represent the end of an era before major changes in the U.S. mint's production, metal composition, and design standards. Collectors love symbolism, and symbolic decades deliver symbolic prices, so picture this. Your 1968 penny is professionally graded, authenticated, and placed into an auction. The bidding begins. A few $100s, then a few thousand. Suddenly it jumps, and jumps again. You watch the numbers climb to levels you never imagined. And then, it lands at a life-changing price. That's the excitement so many collectors chase. That's the transformation ordinary Americans dream about. That's how wealth, real, tangible wealth, begins with something as small as a penny. Here's where the urgency kicks in. Every month, more high-grade coins are being discovered and added to official population reports. Once these reports are filled, the mystery disappears. And mystery is part of what drives record-breaking prices. Collectors want the unknown. They want surprise. They want the thrill of finding something nobody else has. When the pool of hidden treasures shrinks, so does the window of opportunity. So ask yourself, when opportunity knocks, do you open the door? Or do you assume someone else will get there first? Wealth comes to those who act, not to those who wait. Now imagine you're holding your 1968 penny again. Feel the weight. Look closely. Consider the possibility. Maybe it's worth $1, maybe 100, maybe thousands, or maybe, just maybe, it's the next six-figure specimen waiting to be recognized. And if the market continues its upward climb, the next $1 million penny. The story of the 1968 no-mint mark penny isn't just about collecting. It's about empowerment. It's about unlocking value hidden in plain sight. It's about giving ordinary people access to extraordinary opportunity. Every great discovery starts with curiosity. Every great fortune starts with awareness. And every millionaire, at some point, made the decision to look a little closer. Before you leave today, take one simple step. Check your pennies. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Wealth rarely shouts, but sometimes it whispers from the palm of your hand. The 1968 penny is one of those whispers. Soft, subtle, but powerful enough to change your life if you choose to listen. And now, the real question is, what will you find next? Imagine waking up one morning, pouring a cup of coffee, opening an old drawer, and realizing you've been sitting on nearly $1 million without knowing it. Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet countless ordinary Americans have discovered life-changing wealth hiding in plain sight, tucked away in jars, dressers, and pocket change. And today, we're talking about one of the most shocking examples of all. The 1970 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that can soar up to millions of dollars, with rare specimens currently selling for as high as $970,000. Yes, a single penny. The kind you've probably ignored thousands of times. And the truth is, your next one could completely change your life. This isn't just another story about an old coin. This is about possibility. About the hidden opportunities that most people walk past every single day. A small copper coin that reminds us that wealth is often closer than we think. But before we dive deep, let me warn you. Once you learn what gives this penny its extraordinary value, there's a chance you'll never look at loose change the same way again. Don't say I didn't warn you. To understand why the 1970 penny can command a price tag that rivals luxury cars and beachfront real estate, we need to go back to a moment in United States minting history when precision, mass production, and a few unexpected minting errors collided. The Denver Mint was producing billions of coins for circulation. Everything was moving fast, everything was efficient, and everything was supposed to be predictable. But every now and then, something unusual slipped through the cracks. And that's where stories like this begin. Now, you might be thinking, how on earth can a penny leap from 1 cent to nearly $1 million? Is it made of gold? Does it tell the future? And if you're wondering whether you should start checking every old piggy bank in your house, the answer is absolutely yes. Because the rarest examples of the 1970 penny carry extremely scarce features that collectors consider priceless. Some include striking errors so dramatic that they immediately stand out. Others have perfectly crisp details, preserved as if time itself stepped aside for them. When one of these rare variants surfaces, collectors go into a frenzy. But the story doesn't stop at rarity. It's also about the people who have found these coins. Everyday individuals, sometimes in retirement, sometimes downsizing, sometimes simply decluttering. Imagine the feeling of thinking you're just organizing your home, only to discover that a forgotten little penny is worth more than the average American home. Fear and excitement hit at the same time. The fear of missing out, the fear of throwing away something priceless, and the excitement, because when lightning strikes, it strikes big. One collector shared how he nearly spent a rare 1970 penny on a vending machine snack before noticing a strange doubling effect on its date. That coin later sold for enough money to pay off his mortgage, fund his daughter's college education, and still leave a comfortable cushion behind. Can you imagine? Penny turning into a family legacy. Moments like these are why the coin collecting world isn't just a hobby. It's a landscape of opportunity for those who pay attention. And if you think these stories are rare, you're right. That's what makes them powerful. But here's the twist most people don't know. More rare pennies are still out there. Many haven't been discovered yet. They're hiding in boxes, in attics, in coin rolls waiting to be opened. Some are sitting in nightstands across America, untouched for decades. The oldest wealth is sometimes the easiest to overlook. As interest in rare coins continues to surge, the value of these high-grade 1970 pennies grows even stronger. The market is hungry. Collectors with deep pockets are competing. Auctions are heating up. Every year, new record prices are set. And when a pristine example hits the stage, it's like watching a quiet storm build into a thunderous bidding war. That's where that staggering $970,000 mark comes in, the kind of number that instantly turns a humble penny into a symbol of possibility. But here's where things get even more interesting. The most valuable 1970 pennies aren't always the oldest, or the ones kept in a velvet box for 50 years. Sometimes, the biggest winners are the coins with the most dramatic visual errors, double dies, off-center strikes, unexpected repunchings, or strange anomalies created during the minting process. These aren't just imperfections. They're fingerprints of history. They tell collectors, this coin is 1 in a billion. You may be wondering right now, what if one of these rare pennies is already in your home? What if you walked past a fortune this morning without realizing it? That question alone is the reason thousands of new treasure hunters begin searching through their coin jars every year. Some do it casually. Others make it part of their routine. And with stakes this high, who wouldn't? And while we're on the topic, let me add a touch of humor. Suddenly, going through your old change doesn't sound so boring anymore, does it? Who knew financial freedom could start with the sound of pennies clinking together? Sometimes, life's biggest opportunities come disguised as tiny copper circles worth, well, a lot more than 1 cent. Now let's shift to the mindset behind discovering one of these valuable pieces. Building wealth isn't just about luck. It's about awareness. It's about being willing to look where most people don't bother. It's about recognizing that opportunities for financial growth exist in the most ordinary corners of life. What separates the people who find these rare gems from those who never do is simple. They actually look. They take a moment. They pay attention. They understand that the pathway to a wealthy lifestyle doesn't always begin with a huge investment. It often begins with curiosity. But the clock is ticking. As collectors recover the rarest 1970 pennies and lock them away into private collections, the market supply shrinks. Coins that once floated freely in circulation become museum pieces. And when supply shrinks, demand explodes. That's why experts say the next major price jump could be just around the corner. You might be witnessing the early stages of another massive spike in value, and the ones who benefit most are always the people who act early. There's also a sense of urgency now. Every month, more pennies disappear into long-term collections. Every year, more stories emerge of everyday people selling their coins and transforming their lives. 10 years from now, what is currently a $970,000 coin could be priced even higher. And if you or someone you know is holding onto a 1970 penny without having it checked, the risk of missing out on a life-changing discovery becomes very real. Fear can be powerful, but when it's used wisely, it becomes motivation. Motivation to check your coins. Motivation to stop postponing. Motivation to take the chance that others ignore. Before we reach the end, here's a cliffhanger for you. There is one particular variety of the 1970 penny that experts believe could break every existing price record if one more high-grade example appears. What makes it so valuable? What flaw, what mark, what tiny sign could possibly push a penny into the millions? That mystery alone keeps collectors searching obsessively. And yes, we'll explore that in a moment. But first, remember this: wealth doesn't always arrive in loud, glamorous moments. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides. Sometimes it waits patiently in a dusty drawer for someone curious enough to notice it. The 1970 penny is more than just a coin. It is proof that opportunity is still alive in America. It's a reminder that your financial breakthrough might already be in your home, sitting quietly until you decide to look. Now, that rare variety I mentioned, the one collectors can't stop talking about. It's the dramatic double-die version with exceptionally sharp detail, visible distortion around the date and lettering, and a level of clarity that borders on the surreal. One of these surfaced before, and its sale shocked the industry. Many experts believe that if another example in elite condition is found, it could easily surpass the $1 million mark. Yes, surpass it. So the real question is, will it be you who finds the next one? Will it be your drawer, your jar, your forgotten stash of coins that holds the next big discovery? Someone, somewhere in America is holding that penny right now without realizing its power. And as you take a closer look at your coins, remember what this journey is truly about. It's not just about metal and mint marks. It's about stepping into a mindset of opportunity. It's about refusing to ignore the small things that others walk past. It's about believing that you are fully capable of uncovering something extraordinary. Because wealth is not reserved for the few. Sometimes it starts with a single penny. So check your coins. Search your jars. Empty your drawers. Because your chance at a seven-figure discovery could be waiting for you, right where you least expect it. And the only question left to ask is, will you find it before someone else does? Imagine waking up one morning, reaching into an old jar of coins, and realizing that a dull brown penny you've ignored for decades is suddenly worth more than your house, your car, and maybe even your retirement plan combined. Sounds unbelievable, right? But this is exactly what's happening with certain rare Lincoln cents, including the almost mythical 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, known today as one of the most unexpectedly valuable coins in American numismatic history. And with a current market value reaching as high as $975,000, and rare cases rumored to be crossing into the millions, the question becomes unsettlingly simple. Do you have one of these life-changing coins hiding in plain sight? Welcome back, and today, we're diving into one of the most shocking and exciting stories in the world of coin collecting and wealth building. If you're between 30 and 65 and you've ever wondered whether that old change lying around could unlock a wealthier, more secure future, you're in the right place. Because the 1975 Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It is a symbol of hidden opportunity, forgotten fortune, and the kind of financial surprise that could completely transform your life. The story of this coin begins in an era when inflation was rising, trust in institutions was shifting, and Americans were unknowingly carrying pocket change that, decades later, would be worth more than their annual salaries. But this particular penny, this 1975 no-mint mark treasure, escaped the ordinary. It slipped out unnoticed, quietly minted, quietly circulated, and then quietly disappeared into drawers, jars, and family collections. No one realized they were holding something rare, something extraordinary, something that would become a financial legend. But before the shock of its value sets in, let's take a moment to imagine this. How many times did people overlook this exact penny? How many garage sales, vending machines, and kids' piggy banks casually tossed away what is now one of the most desirable US coins of the decade? It's moments like this that make you rethink everything you believe about value. And if you're thinking, did I ever check my old coins? Don't worry, you're not alone. Millions of Americans haven't, and that's exactly where the opportunity lies. Most people never think to check the year 1975 because on the surface it seems like a normal, modern penny. No silver content, no special edition, no dramatic error, at least not at first glance. But the truth is far more fascinating. A small handful of these coins were struck with exceptionally sharp details, unusual die characteristics, or subtle anomalies that today's experts identify as key markers of extreme rarity. Some even attribute the value to the extremely low survival rate of those struck early in the production run. Others point to misaligned dies, unexpected doubling, or a hybrid transition of die states. And here's where the cliffhanger begins to tighten. The exact factors that make the top-tier examples worth over $975,000 are still being studied. Yes, even now. Collectors love mystery. Investors love scarcity. But both absolutely adore unpredictability. And the 1975 no-mint mark penny brings all three together in a way that continues to inspire awe and fear in the market. Fear because people realize they could have had one. Maybe they did have one. Maybe they still do and simply don't know it. If you're feeling a little more curious than you were a minute ago, that's good. You should be. This penny represents wealth hiding in plain sight, and anytime wealth hides, the smart people like you, start paying attention. Now imagine walking into an auction, expecting to see rare gold coins, ancient foreign pieces, or limited-run commemoratives dominating the room. Instead, the spotlight turns to a simple copper penny, the kind you've touched thousands of times in your life, and the bids start climbing. 50,000, 100,000, 300,000. Then suddenly, without hesitation, someone pushes the price into the high six figures. You can almost hear the air shift in the room. And just when you think it's over, a final bid comes in, pushing it near the $1 million mark. The audience gasps, not because they don't understand the value, but because they can't believe something so small, so ordinary, could carry the weight of such enormous financial potential. And that is the power of the 1975 penny. Now here's where things get exciting for you specifically. If you have jars, boxes, drawers, or old inherited coin envelopes lying around, you might already have a piece of this story. And if you're thinking, yeah, but the odds are low, that's true. But then again, the people who found the rare ones also thought the odds were low. Some of them didn't even remember collecting coins at all. They just stumbled across their fortune while cleaning out their homes. Others bought a few old rolls from antique shops without any expectations. A few were simply curious enough to check old pocket change, and their curiosity paid off bigger than any lottery scratch-off could dream of. Because this coin is actively rising in value. The demand is growing, and as supply shrinks, the price climbs. And for anyone who owns one today, especially in pristine condition, the market is fueled by intense collector competition, generational interest, and wealthy private buyers trying to secure rare American coins before prices explode further. If you've ever wanted your money to grow quietly, steadily, and powerfully, owning a rare penny like this is one of the most surprising ways to do it. But why is the 1975 penny worth so much? The truth lies in three major forces: scarcity, condition, and historical timing. Scarcity because only a tiny number of exceptional examples survived. Condition because most circulated heavily and lost the features that collectors crave. And timing because the 1970s represent a transition period in U.S. minting practices that created unexpected variations that today's grading companies are documenting with increasing precision. And yes, that means your specific penny could have tiny details you've never noticed. A sharper strike, a deeper relief, a doubling on Lincoln's profile, a stronger rim, or something even more unusual. Something that makes seasoned collectors raise an eyebrow and ask, "Where did you get this?" Now let's build the tension a bit further. Picture yourself holding your penny. You take a photo. You send it to a grading service or expert dealer. You wait. Days pass. You feel the anticipation, mixed with doubt. What if it's nothing? What if it's something? Then the call comes. The specialist's tone changes. They ask more questions than usual. They request to see it in person. And in that moment, the room you're standing in suddenly feels different. Bigger, brighter, filled with possibility. That moment has happened to multiple collectors already. Their pennies, now valued near $1 million, were once ignored, forgotten, or considered unremarkable. But things are never unremarkable when opportunity is involved. Opportunity hides, wealth hides, but not forever. And because you're still watching, here's the part most people never hear. The rarest 1975 pennies aren't always the ones in the best condition. Sometimes, they're the ones with unexpected minting quirks, little imperfections that only show up under magnification. The kind of details that beginners overlook, but experts celebrate. That means even if your coin is slightly worn, it might still hold exceptional value. Isn't that a wild thought? A penny with a scratch could still be worth more than a luxury SUV. Now let's bring humor into this for just a second, because every intense story needs a breath. Imagine explaining to your family that the path to financial freedom wasn't real estate, wasn't crypto, wasn't stocks. It was a penny you forgot you even owned. You might become the most interesting person at every family gathering for the next 20 years. But behind the humor is a powerful truth. Wealth doesn't always come from the places we expect. Sometimes it comes from history, from timing, from curiosity. Sometimes it comes from something as small and humble as the 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. As we approach the end of this journey, here's the part you absolutely cannot ignore. These coins are being bought quickly. Collectors who missed out years ago are determined not to miss out again. Auction prices are rising. Private transactions are climbing even faster. And the market is becoming increasingly aggressive. The window of opportunity for sellers is wide open right now. But it will not stay open forever. So if you have old coins lying around, check them. If you have inherited collections, examine them. If you've never looked through your saved pennies, start today. You never know which one might change your life. And before we end, here's one last cliffhanger to leave you thinking long after this video ends. Somewhere out there, maybe in a box or a drawer, or inside a dusty old coin album, sits another 1975 penny that hasn't yet revealed its true value. Maybe it belongs to a collector, maybe to a family, or maybe it belongs to you. The only way to know is to look. Thanks for watching, and may your next penny lead you to a wealthier and more abundant life. Imagine waking up one morning to discover that a tiny brown coin hiding in your drawer is actually worth more than a luxury home. Sounds impossible, right? Yet across the United States, ordinary people are uncovering rare 1976 Lincoln pennies, small copper treasures, selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. One extraordinary example has a current market value of $976,000. Yes, a single cent turning into nearly $1 million. That's the kind of life-changing moment people dream about, and today you're going to learn exactly how it happens and how you can position yourself for the same kind of breakthrough. Welcome back to the channel where forgotten coins become fortunes and hidden drawers become gateways to a wealthier future. And before you even think, why would anyone pay that much for a penny? Take a breath, lean in, because you're about to find out something most collectors don't want the world to know. A rare 1976 penny can command massive value not because it's old, but because of what it represents: scarcity, errors, condition, and the stories embedded in the metal itself. If you've ever held a coin and wondered whether it could change your life, keep watching. But fair warning, once you learn what makes this penny so powerful, you'll never look at spare change the same way again. The journey of the 1976 penny begins in a moment of American pride and transition. The year was filled with patriotic celebrations as the country honored its bicentennial. Millions of coins rolled out of the Denver Mint, but only a select few were struck with rare minting errors, extraordinary sharpness, or unique die characteristics that would one day elevate them into the realm of high-value collectibles. Think of it like hundreds of millions of pennies being born at once, but only a handful growing up to become elite, world-class athletes, able to compete at the highest level of the numismatic market. Now, at this point, you might be tempted to rush to the nearest drawer and dump all your old pennies on the table. And honestly, I wouldn't blame you, but hold on, because not all 1976 D pennies are created equal. Some are worth face value, some are worth hundreds, a few are worth thousands, and the rarest among them, those nearly untouched, mint state, sharply struck and carrying specific errors, are the ones commanding life-changing amounts. The difference between a $1 penny and a $976,000 penny can be microscopic. We're talking about things you could miss in a dimly lit room after 3 cups of coffee. Ever tried inspecting a coin with your phone flashlight while pretending you know what you're looking for? Don't worry, we've all been there. But here's where the story gets interesting. Some of the highest value 1976 D pennies ever discovered weren't found by professional collectors. They were found by everyday individuals, people who simply decided to look closer. A man in Colorado found one sitting in a glass jar. A retired couple discovered theirs tucked into an old blue bank envelope. And in every case, the moment of discovery sparked something powerful. The realization that wealth isn't always earned. Sometimes it's uncovered. And that brings us to a critical moment you must understand. The reason these pennies skyrocket to such staggering values comes down to rarity multipliers. One multiplier is the grade. The closer the coin is to perfect mint state, the more explosive the value becomes. Imagine a perfectly preserved penny that hasn't even felt the warmth of a human palm. Another multiplier? Errors. Double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, transitional planchets. These anomalies can send collectors into bidding frenzies. If you ever want to see grown adults go to emotional war, just watch an auction when a rare die variety penny hits the stage. And here's a little twist. Some 1976 D pennies were mistakenly struck on bronze planchets when the composition should have been zinc. These transitional errors are some of the most sought-after coins in the entire Lincoln series. Why? Because they weren't supposed to exist. And anything that isn't supposed to exist becomes irresistible in the world of high-level collecting. This is where common sense ends and opportunity begins. But let's be honest. All this talk of errors and mint states might make you feel like you need a PhD in coinology. Spoiler, that's not a real word. Yet the path to identifying a rare penny is far simpler than you think. It starts with awareness, a bit of patience, and the willingness to examine what most people ignore. Would you believe that millions of Americans throw coins away each year without knowing what they're giving up? That's like throwing away miniature lottery tickets because they look too rusty. As you explore your own older pennies, it's important to understand the psychology behind why collectors pay so much for coins like the 1976 D. Wealthy collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying legacy, history, and prestige. When someone pays nearly $1 million for a penny, they're making a statement. I own something no one else has. Rarity becomes a trophy, and your humble penny becomes the star. Now, here's where the fear kicks in. Because for every person who discovers a fortune, there are countless others who unknowingly give theirs away in a handful of change. Grocery stores, gas stations, donation jars. Treasure moves through America every single day, and most people never notice it. What if you already spent a rare penny without realizing it? What if the coin that could have paid off your debt or bought your dream home slipped through your hands years ago? It's a scary thought, but it's also the spark that motivates people to finally take their collections seriously. But don't let fear paralyze you. Let it awaken you. Because even though rare coins are scarce, opportunities are still out there. The 1976 D penny continues to surprise collectors and dealers, with new discoveries appearing in auctions and private sales. And every time one surfaces, its value increases, because the more that are found, the fewer remain undiscovered. So yes, there is urgency. Time isn't working in your favor. Every day you wait is another day someone else finds the coin you could have claimed. Still with me? Good. Because here comes the part that gives people goosebumps. The biggest finds often come when people least expect them. A man searching through his childhood coin folder found a 1976 D with a high-grade strike and a subtle doubling on the date. It sold for 5 figures, then 6, and nearly reached 7. One discovery, one moment, one decision to look closer changed his financial future forever. Imagine turning a penny into college tuition, retirement savings, or the down payment on your next home. It's possible, and stories like these prove it. But let's shift to something more personal. You're here because you're not just curious, you're looking for opportunity, for a chance to transform what you already have into something greater. You want to live a more secure, more abundant, more wealthy lifestyle. And the most incredible part? The first step doesn't require risk, investment, or luck. It simply requires awareness. The rarest treasures aren't always buried underground. Sometimes they're waiting inside the old coffee can, the inherited coin box, the forgotten bag in the closet. Here's a funny question. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not glanced, looked. Most people would struggle to remember because pennies have become almost invisible in everyday life. And that's exactly why they hold power. Anything ignored becomes a hiding place, and treasures love to hide. Now we're approaching the part you've been waiting for. How a 1976 D penny becomes worth up to millions. It's a combination of perfect condition, rare errors, top-tier grading, and extreme demand from elite collectors. The highest-end examples get submitted to grading companies like PCGS or NGC, sealed in protective holders, and instantly transformed into prestige assets. Once graded at the highest levels, these coins aren't just valuable. They become investment-grade items that wealthy buyers compete for fiercely. And here's your cliffhanger. The next record-breaking 1976 D penny hasn't been found yet. Could still be out there. Could be sitting in someone's jar, someone's attic, someone's pocket, maybe even yours. The biggest fortune tied to this coin still remains unclaimed. So what should you do right now? Start by examining every 1976 D penny you can find. Look for sharp details, bright luster, unusual marks, or anything that seems off. If you even suspect it might be special, get it checked by a reputable coin dealer or grading service. And do it soon, because the market is heating up and demand is driving prices to unprecedented levels. But before we wrap, here's a question to leave echoing in your mind. What would you do if you discovered your penny was worth nearly $1 million? Would you sell it, invest it, travel, retire early, or finally build the wealthy lifestyle you've always envisioned? The answer is yours. The opportunity is real. The coin might already be in your possession. And the only thing standing between— Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the 1-cent penny sitting in your old coffee jar could be worth more than your car, your savings account, and maybe even your house combined. Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet, every month, ordinary people across America stumble upon coins hiding in plain sight. Coins like the 1978 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, selling for mind-blowing amounts, even reaching the $1 million threshold. And today, we're diving deep into how a tiny copper coin from 1978 is shaking up the modern coin market, with verified sales soaring up to a staggering $978,000. If that number doesn't grab your attention, check your pulse. What makes this little penny so extraordinary? Why is a coin you've probably spent your whole life ignoring suddenly worth more than a luxury SUV? The truth is, the rarest treasures are often hiding where we least expect them. And the 1978 no-mint Mark penny is the perfect example of a sleeper coin, quiet, common on the surface, yet holding the potential to completely change someone's financial future. Somewhere out there, maybe in a desk drawer or tucked away in a forgotten shoebox, someone is sitting on this small fortune without even knowing it. Could that someone be you? Well, keep watching, because what you're about to hear could turn your weekend cleaning routine into your wealth-building moment. To understand the secret behind this coin's explosive value, we have to journey back to a time when the American economy was shifting, inflation was roaring, and mint production techniques were evolving fast. The late 1970s were an era of transition for U.S. coins. The mint was working under immense pressure, and quality control wasn't always perfect. That's where opportunity was born. The 1978 no-mint Mark penny, struck in Philadelphia, looked just like millions of others, but only a tiny number exited the mint in remarkably pristine condition. Some were struck with extraordinary sharpness, flawless surfaces, or subtle variations only professional graders typically notice. And those microscopic details? They're exactly what can turn a penny into a high-value collectible. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night. Coins in this condition shouldn't exist after 40-plus years of circulation. They should have been scratched, dented, or worn down by pockets, wallets, vending machines, and countless hands. Yet somehow, a very select few survived perfectly preserved. Every time one surfaces, the market goes wild. The result? Record-breaking prices like the recent sale brushing just under $1 million. Ever think you'd hear the words $1,000,000 penny without sarcasm? Well, welcome to the world of numismatics. Before you start tearing apart your house like you're on a treasure hunt reality show, let's slow down just enough to understand what makes these exceptional coins stand out. Collectors look for grading, essentially the coin's report card. A 1978 penny graded in the highest categories, especially MS-67 or MS-68, becomes a superstar. The shine, the crisp edges, the untouched surfaces. These are the qualities that launch bidding wars. And since only a microscopic fraction of all 1978 pennies can earn these top-tier grades, the rarity drives the price sky-high. Scarcity plus demand equals value. Basic economics, but with a copper twist. Now, here's where things get exciting and a little terrifying. Every year, people accidentally give away small fortunes because they don't know what they're holding. Pennies tossed into donation jars. Pennies used in self-checkout machines. Pennies swept off countertops and into trash bins. Somewhere out there, a person has already spent a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars without realizing it. That should spark a little fear, right? The kind that makes you want to grab a flashlight and start inspecting every coin you own. But this fear is good. It's the kind that pushes you to act before it's too late. Alongside the fear comes the thrill. Imagine the adrenaline rush of spotting a flawless 1978 penny with strong luster, perfect detail, and no mint mark. Picture taking it to a coin shop, watching the appraiser's eyes widen like they've seen a ghost made of copper. Imagine the moment they tell you your tiny coin could fetch life-changing money at auction. Would you stay calm? Most people don't. Their hands shake. Their heart races. Suddenly, the world feels full of possibility. And here's where the urgency comes in. The market doesn't stay the same forever. As more collectors become aware of high-grade 1978 pennies, the demand grows stronger. And as demand rises, the number of ungraded, untouched coins shrinks. Each year, the odds of finding a pristine specimen get lower. You don't want to look back 5 years from now and say, I should have searched while I still had the chance. Regret is a heavy burden. But opportunity is a spark. You either catch it or let it burn out. But curiosity is probably eating at you now. How does an ordinary person actually find one of these high-value pennies? That's where the real story begins. Many of the biggest discoveries come from everyday sources. Old jars, inherited collections, estate sales, abandoned coin albums from childhood, even pocket change from the grocery store. These pennies don't always hide in fancy safes or bank vaults. Sometimes they're hiding in a pile of coins waiting to be rolled. One man reportedly found a high-grade example while sorting change during a kitchen remodel. Yes, while wearing dusty jeans and listening to talk radio. Life has a sense of humor like that. But here's the cliffhanger you need to brace yourself for. Not every shiny penny is valuable. Some look perfect at first glance but show microscopic flaws that knock them out of top-grade territory. And the only way to truly know? Professional grading. Without it, you're guessing. And guessing is not how you build wealth. But before you rush off to submit every coin you own, you'll want to know exactly what signs to look for. Because sending in low-value coins can cost you more than it earns. And in just a moment, I'll reveal the specific visual cues that can help you determine whether your 1978 penny deserves that grading submission. But first, let's talk about the bigger picture, because this coin is more than copper and numbers. It represents something powerful. It represents the idea that wealth can hide in unexpected places. That opportunity doesn't always announce itself with flashing lights. Sometimes it whispers, Sometimes, it's a penny you haven't looked at twice in decades. And for many people, that whisper becomes the moment everything changes. A small coin becomes a doorway to financial freedom, debt elimination, or simply the thrill of knowing you uncovered something rare and extraordinary. Now, let's circle back to what you need to look for before sending your coin off for grading. You're aiming for coins with sharp, clean details on Lincoln's coat and hair. You want a flawless surface without scratches or spots. You want strong mint luster, that glossy, reflective shine that almost looks like it's glowing under the light. If your coin has these traits, you're holding potential. Real potential. But here's the kicker. The difference between a coin worth 50 cents and one worth $500,000 is often nearly invisible to the naked eye. That's why professional grading isn't just useful, it's essential. Once you confirm that your 1978 penny might be a contender, you enter a new level of excitement. That mix of hope and fear. What if it grades high? What if it doesn't? The anticipation is part of the journey. Many collectors say the moment the envelope arrives with their grading results feels like waiting for exam scores, except the stakes can be life-changing. And if your coin comes back with that dream grade, the feeling is indescribable. A single penny becomes a wealth-building asset. An opportunity to pay off debt, start a business, take that overdue vacation, or build generational wealth. The final question is the one that keeps people watching until the very end. Is it still possible to find one of these million-dollar level 1978 pennies today? The answer is yes, but not for long. The supply is vanishing fast. Collectors, investors, and auction houses are scooping them up, sealing them away in protective holders where they'll stay for decades. Every year, fewer ungraded gems remain in circulation. That means the window is closing. And if you want to catch your chance at discovering one, the time to check your coins is now. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Don't brush it aside. Don't assume it's worthless. Your future wealth, your next big opportunity, might be hiding in the smallest, simplest place. And the 1978 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is proof that sometimes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a moment of awareness. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that the small, forgotten penny sitting in your drawer could be the key to unlocking a life of financial freedom. Not a lottery ticket, not a risky investment, just a simple, ordinary-looking 1979 Lincoln penny that most people overlook every single day. What if I told you that this exact coin, the one millions of Americans once tossed into jars and glove compartments, has recently shocked collectors by selling for as much as $979,000? Yes, close to $1 million for a single cent. Hard to believe? Good, because the truth is even more unbelievable than the rumor. Welcome back. Today we're diving into the mysterious, adrenaline-pumping world of the 1979 mint Mark Lincoln penny, one of the most underestimated coins in American history. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how these coins reach values that stretch into the millions and why yours may be hiding a secret worth far more than you ever imagined. The story begins in 1979, a year when the world was shifting in ways that most people didn't yet understand. The U.S. Mint in Denver struck over 4.1 billion Lincoln cents that year. With numbers that massive, who could ever predict that a tiny portion of those coins would become some of the most sought-after treasures in modern collecting? It's a bit like trying to find one golden leaf in a forest the size of Manhattan. But here's the twist. These valuable coins don't stand out at first glance. They blend in. They hide in plain sight. And that's exactly why they've become so powerful. The average person sees a 1979 penny and shrugs. But collectors? They see opportunity. They see rarity. They see life-changing potential. Sometimes I wonder, how many people have unknowingly flipped away a $1 million penny while paying for coffee? Probably enough to make you question every coin you've ever touched. The secret behind these ultra-valuable 1979 pennies lies in details so small that most people never even think to look for them. These coins achieve their high values through a combination of exceptional mint state condition, rare die varieties, dramatic errors, and extremely high grading results. It's not just the coin itself, it's the story it tells. And stories, especially rare ones, are what collectors pay fortunes for. Let's talk condition first, because this is where money truly begins to multiply. A standard circulated 1979 D penny is worth, well, a penny. Maybe 2 cents if it's lucky. But a flawless example. One preserved in stunning red brilliance, untouched by time, with razor-sharp detail and not a single mark in sight, can skyrocket in value. We've seen top-graded examples shock the market, pushing past six figures and brushing the clouds of million-dollar territory. Think of it this way. Finding a 1979 D penny in perfect condition is like discovering a 1979 car with 0 miles still wrapped in factory plastic. Rare doesn't even begin to describe it. And then there are the errors. The beautiful, chaotic mistakes that slip past the mint's quality control and become the legends of numismatics. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, double dies, die cracks. Each one tells a story of a moment when something went wrong in the perfect machinery of the U.S. Mint. Collectors adore these anomalies because they represent uniqueness. In a world filled with billions of identical coins, an error coin stands alone, one of one. And one of one is where the big money lies. Some of the highest value 1979 D pennies sold today come from rare varieties discovered decades after they were minted, meaning treasures are still being uncovered right now, hiding in jars, boxes, and pockets. But condition and errors are just part of this coin's mystique. The real financial impact comes from scarcity at the highest grade. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC assign numerical grades, and the difference between a grade of 67 and a grade of 68 can mean a jump from a few $1,000s to hundreds of thousands. A single point can change an entire financial future. Sounds dramatic? It is. This is the world where a tiny detail, a microscopic scratch, a subtle spot of discoloration, can determine whether your coin is worth $50 or nearly $1 million that we've seen confirmed sales nearing $979,000 for extraordinary examples. Coins that represent the absolute finest quality known to exist. These headline-grabbing sales shake the numismatic world, inspire treasure hunters everywhere, and create an urgency that pushes collectors into bidding wars. You can feel the tension when a rare 1979 D penny goes up for auction. It's like watching a heavyweight fight where every punch is a $1,000 bid. But here's the part most people never expect. The next life-changing coin could be sitting in a kitchen drawer right now. Maybe even yours. What does that mean for you? It means opportunity. It means possibility. It means that the dream of building wealth isn't reserved for the lucky few who bought the right stocks or inherited the right real estate. Sometimes wealth hides in the smallest, simplest places. Think about it. Millions of Americans are searching for ways to improve their financial lives. Ways to pay off debt, support their families, retire comfortably, or step into the lifestyle they've always wanted. But very few realize that the key could be a penny minted in 1979, waiting patiently for someone with knowledge, curiosity, and just a bit of courage to look closer. Of course, this is where fear creeps in. The fear of missing out. The fear of throwing away something valuable. The fear of realizing that you might have had a rare coin once, but didn't know its worth until it was too late. It happens more than you think. People toss away treasure every day simply because they never learned what to look for. And that's why this moment matters, because once you know the signs, you can never unsee them. So what exactly should you be looking for? First, inspect the color. The brightest red, glossy finish is a strong indicator of high grade. Then check for an error or variety. Doubling on the lettering, misaligned strikes, unusual shapes along the edge. Even tiny imperfections can mean major money. Next, look for sharp details: Lincoln's hair, the lettering, the memorial or shield design. The crisper, the better. And finally, consider getting your coin graded. Yes, it costs money, but the reward can be exponential. It's like polishing a dusty gemstone and revealing a diamond underneath. Here's a question worth asking. If a penny could change your life, would you take 5 minutes to look for it? Most people wouldn't. Most people dismiss small opportunities because they assume the big ones are out of reach. But the wealthy aren't defined by luck. They're defined by awareness. Right now, with the market roaring and rare coins hitting record highs, collectors are hungry. They're paying top dollar for pieces that stand out. They're competing, searching, pushing values even higher. And while the general public has no idea what's happening, you do. You're ahead. You're in the small circle of people who understand that old coins are no longer just collectibles. They're assets. Portable assets. Liquid assets. Assets that can be passed down, traded, or turned into cash when needed most. The next few years are crucial. As more collectors enter the market, the supply of high-grade 1979D pennies shrinks. Every time one is bought, graded, and tucked into a permanent collection, that's one less chance for someone else. That's how scarcity grows. That's how values rise. And that's why the time to check your coins is right now, not next month, not next year. Opportunities don't wait. They disappear quietly. And here comes the cliffhanger you've been waiting for. The rarest and most valuable 1979D penny ever discovered wasn't found by a seasoned collector. It wasn't found by a dealer or an investor or someone with years of experience. It was discovered by an ordinary person, someone just like you who simply decided to take a closer look. One moment it was just a penny. The next moment it became a financial turning point. Imagine what might be waiting in your home right now as you begin checking your own coins. Remember this. Wealth doesn't always arrive as a windfall. Sometimes it arrives as knowledge. Sometimes it arrives as awareness. And sometimes it arrives as a simple copper-coated penny minted in 1979 at the Denver Mint. If you've ever dreamed of stepping into a wealthier lifestyle, of gaining financial confidence, of discovering an opportunity that most people overlook, then this is your moment. This is your chance to uncover something extraordinary. The 1979D Lincoln penny is more than a coin. It's a reminder that fortune favors the curious, the attentive, and the bold. And who knows? Your next step may begin with a single cent worth nearly $1 million. Imagine waking up one ordinary morning, reaching into an old coffee can of pennies you tossed aside years ago, and realizing that one tiny copper coin, a coin smaller than your thumb, could be worth up to millions of dollars. Yes, a simple 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the same penny most people ignore on the ground, now carrying a jaw-dropping market value reaching as high as $981,000. Sounds unbelievable, right? And yet, for the few who know what to look for, this penny has become a silent passport to massive wealth. So before you think those old coins in your drawer are worthless, you might want to stay with me until the very end, because the most valuable piece of the story is coming later, and trust me, it's the part collectors never talk about publicly. The story of the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just about copper and zinc. It's about timing, rarity, and the hidden opportunities that so many Americans overlook. Consider this: in a world where everyone is chasing complicated investments, some of the greatest fortunes still come from the simplest places. After all, who would ever suspect that pocket change could become life-changing? And yet, throughout history, it has. The 1981 penny is the perfect example. A coin struck during a year of transition, secrecy, and surprising production quirks at the U.S. Mint. What makes these coins so special? Why are collectors hunting them like treasures? And more importantly, how can a regular person like you turn an overlooked penny into nearly $1 million? Before we get to the answer, let's rewind the clock. The year was 1981. America was shifting, inflation was rising, metal compositions were changing, and mints were preparing for future adjustments. Coins struck in 1981 without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, but not all coins created that year were equal. Some were struck with extraordinary sharpness, some with rare die variations. Some survived in pristine, untouched condition. And a handful, just a handful, became so flawless that grading companies would award them near-perfect designations. Those are the coins now reaching eye-watering prices. But here's where things get interesting. The 1981 penny isn't supposed to be rare. Millions were made. Billions of pennies circulated. So how in the world does a coin that everyone owned become a coin almost no one kept in the right condition? Simple. No one thought it mattered. No one imagined these would ever be valuable. And because of that collective assumption, most 1981 pennies were tossed, scraped, pocketed, dropped, chipped, scratched, dented, and forgotten. A perfect recipe for rarity decades later. Now here's the twist. The coins that survived untouched, especially those with perfect or near-perfect striking details, are selling for prices that would make even Wall Street jealous. We're talking six figures routinely and occasionally hitting that unbelievable $981,000 range for elite condition specimens. And if you're wondering, Why would anyone pay nearly $1 million for a penny? Well, collectors aren't just buying coins. They're buying perfection. They're buying history. They're buying the bragging rights of owning something almost no one else in the world has. And yes, they're buying investment potential because a rare coin is one of the few assets that can literally grow more valuable simply by aging. But let's pause for a moment. If you're holding a handful of old pennies right now, you're probably thinking, could one of mine be worth thousands? Or hundreds of thousands? Or maybe more? That's the exact question many people ask. And the truth is, the answer depends on details so small that most people never think to look. And yet those tiny details can mean the difference between 1 cent and one life-changing fortune. We'll talk about what to look for soon, but don't jump ahead, because there's a twist coming that might completely change how you search your coins. Before that, let's address the fear most collectors feel but rarely admit. The fear of missing out. The fear that someone else will discover a treasure in their coin jar while they ignored theirs. The fear that an opportunity is slipping away while they're waiting for a better time. And the most dangerous fear, the fear of starting. But here's the truth. Wealth rarely waits for perfect timing. Wealth rewards action. And if there was ever a time to dig out those old coins, that time is now. Especially because the rise in coin prices over recent years has created a wave of urgency. Auctions are seeing record-breaking numbers. Collectors are aggressively hunting high-grade early 1980s pennies. And the window of opportunity is slowly closing as more people rush to grade coins and shrink the supply of ungraded, hidden gems. But excitement is just as important as urgency. So here's the exciting part. The 1981 penny has multiple pathways to value. The first is condition: brilliant, lustrous, near-perfect surfaces with no marks. The second is strike quality. Those with crisp details on Lincoln's beard, hair, and coat can command incredible prices. The third are the rare die variations that slipped through production quietly. Some of these varieties are extremely subtle, so subtle that most Americans have spent them without knowing. And then there are the coins that were accidentally preserved in sealed rolls or forgotten inside old bank bags, untouched by human hands for decades. Those coins are jackpot material. But let's keep building this momentum. Imagine you find a 1981 penny in uncirculated condition, glowing red with copper brilliance. Imagine submitting it for professional grading, waiting anxiously for results, and then receiving a grade so high that collectors immediately start calling. Picture that moment when the grading label reads something elite, something rare, something that transforms a simple penny into a 5- or 6-figure treasure. And imagine the life you could build with that wealth. That home renovation you've delayed. That debt you want to erase. That dream vacation. Or maybe even starting a new chapter in life with financial freedom. A tiny coin making a massive impact. But let's not forget humor, because let's be honest. The idea that a penny could pay your mortgage sounds almost ridiculous. How many of us walked past pennies on sidewalks? How many times did we say, "It's just a penny"? Well, apparently 1981 was the year the universe said, "Think again." Now the story intensifies, because the biggest secret behind the 1981 penny's soaring value is not just rarity, but competition. Wealthy collectors are competing fiercely for the highest grade examples, and competition always drives prices up. When two determined collectors want the same coin, things get intense. Bidding wars erupt, prices climb, and suddenly a penny once worth nothing becomes a financial rocket launching into record territory. So if you think $981,000 is the ceiling, think again. The next record could be higher, and it might belong to a coin someone discovers today. This leads to the question you've been waiting for: what exactly should you look for in your 1981 pennies? Look for coins with full original red color, no scratches, sharp details, elevated strike quality, and absolutely no discoloration. Look for coins stored in old rolls or collections. Look for coins that appear untouched. And yes, look for subtle die differences, like slight doubling, misalignments, or crisp separation lines in Lincoln's features. These details matter more than people realize. And here comes the cliffhanger. Because the rarest twisting variation of the 1981 penny is something most sellers don't recognize even when it's sitting right in front of them. That detail can push its value from a few $1,000s into the hundreds of thousands. And that's exactly why you should never sell a coin without knowing its full potential. Now imagine the end of this journey. You've learned the history, the rarity, the value, the grading potential, the competitive market, and the emotional power behind this humble penny. But the bigger takeaway is something deeper. Wealth doesn't always come from the expected places. Sometimes it comes from overlooked moments, forgotten objects, and small opportunities waiting quietly. The 1981 penny is a reminder that opportunity still exists for those who pay attention. And today, you're already one step ahead of most people, because now you know what others have ignored. And just before we close, let me leave you with this thought. Somewhere in America, maybe in a kitchen drawer, a garage box, or an old jar on a dusty shelf, a 1981 penny is waiting for its owner to discover its true worth. Will that owner be you? Will you be the one who turns 1 cent into a fortune? Or will someone else beat you to it? The clock is ticking, the market is rising, and the next $1 million penny could already be in your home. All it needs is someone willing to look.